Good morning. Today is Wednesday, February 12th. This is Wake Up with KERA News, and I'm your host, Andrew Garcia. We saw quite a bit of rain early this morning, but it is mostly cleared up by now, thankfully. Watch out, though, for flooded roads and fog today as you're driving around. In just a bit, we'll hear how Plano's upcoming bond election could affect its residents and their wallets. Let's get into today's news. If you're still looking for a Valentine, maybe you'll find one in a new furry friend. Dallas Animal Services is hosting a Valentine's Day adoption special to help with overcapacity. The doggy date night is today from 1 to 8 p.m., and adoptions of dogs and some cats will be free. The shelter currently has 375 dogs, but only 283 kennels. Alaska Airlines will stop service from Love Field Airport this spring. At the moment, the airline has about 5 flights a week from Love Field to Seattle. The airline will consolidate flights to Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, with servicing ending at Love Field in May. Passengers with flights after then will be reassigned to flights at DFW. The Plano City Council has called for a bond election. KERA's Collin County reporter Caroline Love sat down with Justin Martin to give us a breakdown on why the council is asking Plano citizens to help foot the bill for one of the largest bond packages in the city's history.
So, Caroline, there are several bond propositions on the ballot. What items stand out to you?
The bond this year really aligns with the city's priorities. The biggest item is the first proposition for road improvements. That's often the most expensive and important item for bond elections anywhere. Public safety is also a priority in most cities, and Plano is no exception. That's why a new police headquarters and training center are on the ballot. The police headquarters is around 45 years old, and there's also funding for improving the city's fleet operations center.
This bond election is asking for about $649 million. That's about $300 million more than the previous bond election. What's behind that difference?
Yeah, so the last bond election was 4 years ago. Inflation has gone up since then. That impacts the price of materials for construction projects and land purchases. The final number is actually less than what the city started out with. It was originally over $1.5 billion, but they cut it down to where it's now. And the city council has talked a lot about the bond sticker shock, but Mayor John Munz told me the projects are all necessary.
If we don't take care of our infrastructure, I think companies will look elsewhere if we're not taking care of our city in all facets.
Plano is a mature city now. The roads are decades old, and so are a lot of the city's facilities. Munn says it's time to update.
Why a bond election? Aren't there other funds that the city could use to pay for some of these projects?
I talked with Plano's budget director, Karen Rhodes Whitley, about this. She says it's like taking a mortgage out when you buy a house.
Do you have $579,000 sitting in the bank that you can go pay cash? Most people do not. It's just like the city.
I mentioned earlier that Plano is a mature city. Munz told me Plano has one of the highest senior property tax freezes, and that lowers their property tax revenue. He says the city doesn't want that to change, but it does mean they may need to explore other options for big projects. That's where the bond comes in. Rhodes Whitley says they'll issue the debt and collect the money over the next 20 years.
Could you elaborate a little more about that? Where does the money for the bond come from?
Right. So this is a general obligation bond, and that means the money will come from property taxes. Plano has a good track record of paying off its debts, so their interest rates are low. Rhodes Whitley says it would add about 3.5 cents to the city's property tax rate if all of the propositions are approved.
The final approval obviously is up to the voters, but what happens if the propositions don't pass?
That's a tricky question. The city does have other funding sources available, but that's a lot of cash they'd have to find. Plus, they need to pay for other city services and projects, too. The city council members are in agreement that the items in the bond are all necessary, but they also do recognize that it's a bigger number than past bonds. That's why they cut projects like the Arts Building. The city decided to look into other funding sources for it, like a public-private partnership, to take it off this year's bond election.
Is the bond election on the same day as the city council races in Plano?
Yeah, that's right. There are elections for 3 city council seats and the mayor on the ballot in addition to the bond. Early voting is scheduled to start April 22nd, and Election Day is May 3rd.
That was KERA's Caroline Love speaking with host Justin Martin. The Mavs play the Golden State Warriors tonight at the American Airlines Center. The injury-ridden yet staunch defense of the Mavs will look to do what they can to stop the fresh vibes offense of Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry. Tip-off is at 8:30. Head to the Latino Cultural Center to see El Viaje de Tina, or Tina's Journey. This bilingual production tells the story of Tina and her family as they hope to cross the border from Mexico into the U.S. For more information and some other things to do, visit kera.org/calendar. Thank you once again for listening to Wake Up with KERA News. I'm your host, Andrew Garcia. The show is produced and edited by Sharday White and Becca Moore. For more news in your inbox, visit kera.org/wakeup. That's where you can subscribe to the Wake Up with KERA News newsletter and get good morning vibes from our colleague Catherine Hobbs. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at KERATX. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.